You've probably already watched Dragon Ball without even noticing half of what was happening. Not because the story was too complex, but because certain things only make sense once you already know the ending. But between what was planned from the start and was pure coincidence, there's a third path, and that's where the genius of this series lies. So stick with me until the end of the video so you can understand all about this. What's up everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Dragon Dao. Toriyama commented several times that Dragon Ball was built as the story progressed. He simply thought of a new idea and then tried to find ways to make it fit with the elements that already existed. For many people, this would automatically mean that Dragon Ball couldn't have good foreshadowing. After all, if something wasn't planned, then it couldn't have been set up beforehand. But it's not quite that simple. Some instances of foreshadowing are intentional. They're clues the author deliberately plants to lead to something he has already decided to do in the future. And even Dragon Ball has some of this type too, which I'm going to show you in this video. But there are also those moments that, when you look at the complete series and know the entire story, end up taking on new meaning. Even if they weren't originally conceived as setup for a future event, they end up working exactly that way because Toriyama was a master at creating this sense of continuity. Even though, as he himself said, he was just making everything up as he went along. So let's take a look at them. Goku's revelation as an alien and a Saiyan at the beginning of the Z era is one of the greatest moments in anime history. So let's take a look at what the manga had already established about Goku's nature, which made Raditz's story one of the best reveals of all time. Right at the beginning, still in chapter 2, Bulma asks Goku if his parents had died. Goku answers that he didn't know, but that he was abandoned in the mountains and his grandpa Gohan raised him. And then Bulma says that he'd surely been abandoned for having a tail. And the curious thing is that in one of the panels of this chapter, a flying saucer appears. In chapter 23, after Goku transforms into a great ape for the first time and goes on a rampage, Bulma says it was better not to tell Goku that it was he himself who killed his grandfather when he transformed. And Oolong wonders what Goku was, after all, if by any chance he was an alien. Much further ahead, in chapter 159, already in the King Piccolo saga, Goku takes a direct hit from Piccolo and survives, which leaves Piccolo surprised, wondering how a human could exist who was able to rival him. Then Goku answers that, since he has a tail, then he must not be a human. All of this served as perfect foreshadowing for the story Master Roshi would tell about Grandpa Gohan finding a strange baby with violent behavior in the forest, about the Saiyans using the great ape form to dominate and conquer planets, and about Goku being part of a race of exceptional warriors, since Goku always showed abilities far beyond humans. And whenever I talk about Goku's revelation as an alien, people comment on the scene from the anime with Major Metalotron, when he scans Goku, and the analysis indicates that he was probably an alien. And it's true that this scene practically gives the game away, since it's not just Oolong or Goku questioning their own nature, but a scientific analysis. But in the manga, this scene simply doesn't exist. And the most curious thing is that this anime episode was created before the manga chapter where Raditz arrives. So that makes us wonder just how much Toriyama may have been influenced by Toei itself, especially since he said that when he, quote-unquote, discovered that Goku was an alien, even he was surprised. Before Goku transformed into a Super Saiyan for the first time, Toriyama spent many chapters building the mystery around this legend. And the interesting thing is that each character who touched on the subject added a new layer. Even before Zarbon's defeat on Namek, Frieza is the first to comment on the legendary warrior, when he says that Saiyans got stronger every time they recovered from a near-death experience, and because of that, it'd be a huge problem if the legend of the Super Saiyan became reality. The Grand Elder Guru begins to build the idea that the Super Saiyan was a warrior of mythical proportions, known by races that had nothing to do with the Saiyans. Vegeta details that the Super Saiyan was a warrior who surpassed all limits of a Saiyan, even the elite ones, and that one emerged once every 1,000 years. Ginyu added that this warrior should be a lover of blood and battle. And Jay states that this warrior was the only thing Frieza feared, and Frieza would get irritated every time the subject was brought up by Vegeta. The fear was there. And then, after Krillin's death, the transformation happens. Goku manifests exactly everything that had been described throughout the chapters. The power that surpasses all limits, the rage, the bloodlust, the ability to cause panic in Frieza, the legend that seemed too big to be true materialized. Every piece of foreshadowing that Toriyama planted finally took the form of the warrior with golden hair and aura. Ultra Instinct, the high point of Dragon Ball Super. And I'd say one of the factors that contributed to its success was that just like the original Super Saiyan from the Frieza saga, it was also intentionally built up long beforehand. The first foreshadowing appears way before the Tournament of Power, and even before the Dragon Ball Super anime and manga. It was back in the Resurrection F movie. Actually, it was even earlier. In the promotional manga Toyotaro did for the movie. At the start of Goku and Vegeta's training on Beerus's planet, Whis says that Goku and Vegeta thought too much about their actions before moving. observing, especially Vegeta, who had a strong tendency to overthink before acting, which could even indicate that he, in the end, wouldn't try to follow the same path as Goku. Wiz continues explaining that, while sensations pass through the 5 senses to the brain, and then are transmitted back from the brain to the body, precious time is lost. The Super manga had some more foreshadowing before the transformation in the tournament. In chapter 27, after Vegeta is defeated by Beerus, Wiz repeats the whole lesson, saying he must be able to let each part of his body judge and act on its own. And at the end of the chapter, we see Vegeta folding clothes while practicing this. In the next chapter, during the fight between the gods of destruction, Goku sees Beerus dodge all the attacks from the other gods and wonders what that was. Wiz says that Beerus's body could feel the attacks and make decisions on its own. In chapter 39, shortly before Goku awakens the transformation against Jiren, Master Roshi teaches him a lesson by making him recall the teachings of all his masters. Then he says he's going to teach him one more lesson from the Turtle School, how to move properly. And, believe it or not, the old man takes on Jiren using a technique based on the same principle as Ultra Instinct. By setting up all this foreshadowing of the technique since the 2015 movie, Toriyama ensured that when Goku awakened the transformation in the Tournament of Power, we felt it was an evolution of everything he'd been learning, and not just another Deus Ex Machina to solve an impossible situation. After Goku gathered the Dragon Balls to resurrect Upa's father, we get some foreshadowing from Fortune Teller Baba, who says that Goku is an incredible boy, and that someday he'll end up saving the world. Master Roshi and Krillin even got a bit confused by it, and Fortune Teller Baba confirms that's exactly what it was, that somehow she had this feeling. 2 sagas later, the prophecy is fulfilled, with Goku defeating King Piccolo and saving the world, something that'll continue to be remembered even in the Z era by the King. And going back to the topic of aliens, we also had the revelation of Piccolo and Kami as Namekians. The foreshadowing happens during the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament. Kami, using the body of the human Shen, begins to talk to Piccolo in a strange language, and absolutely no one understands what they were saying. Which was strange, because all the characters in Dragon Ball, even in completely different regions of the world, seem to speak the same language. So it didn't seem like a language from that world. Now in chapter 207, after Raditz and Goku had died by Piccolo's special beam cannon, Kami says he noticed that Raditz's soul went to the other world, instead of wandering the world without being able to rest, which was what happened to the souls of those killed by a demon. This indicated that Piccolo's own nature as a demon was actually much more flexible. He wasn't a demon in himself, but rather a demon for being evil, the evil part that came out of Kami. And from the moment he stopped being so evil, his nature began to change. So when Nappa says that Piccolo was a Namekian, it didn't come out of nowhere. Within the story, there were already clues and explanations for it. We have foreshadowing about that moment when Frieza destroyed the Earth and Wiz rewound time so Goku could defeat him before it happened again. Again in the promotional manga, Wiz says that Beerus had once destroyed the 2 suns that were near his planet. Goku asks how he brought the suns back, and Wiz says he can simply go back in time a bit, right before moments like that happen, which was exactly what he did, bringing the Earth back at Beerus's request. And another one from this same promotional manga we've got Wiz saying that Goku had excessive self-confidence, that he was careless and let his guard down, which was foreshadowing of that ridiculous scene of Goku in Super Saiyan Blue getting shot by Sorbet. We also have foreshadowing that androids 19 and 20 would lose to the Z Fighters when Piccolo comments that they chose that location for the battle, surrounded by mountains and rocks, in case they needed to flee and hide, which was exactly what happened, and Android 20 took advantage of precisely that. Another instance of foreshadowing is Goten and Trunks as Mighty Mask. At first glance, this doesn't seem like much. It was just Toriyama having fun, a typical Buu Saga joke. But when we look at the full story, this moment works as symbolic foreshadowing for the fusion the two would perform later. After knocking out the real fighter and stealing his costume, Trunks needed to stand on Goten's shoulders. But for this to work during the fights without being discovered, a synchronization between the two was required, since each one controlled only half the body. And of course they struggled with it and kept arguing with each other about the lack of coordination they had. But all this clowning ended up mirroring the inner workings of the fusion technique itself presented later. The fusion dance required the 2 fighters to execute a perfectly synchronized choreography, besides also requiring them to be able to match their power levels. So, even before fusion was mentioned in the series, we can say that Goten and Trunks were sort of already adapting to the idea. And for that reason, I find it interesting to see this moment as symbolic foreshadowing that the two were destined to merge into a single fighter in the future. beyond Super Saiyan, one of the main themes of the Android saga. Reaching a level above the transformation's common level was the only solution this time, and they realized it quickly as soon as they were defeated by 17 and 18. And if you're thinking that the foreshadowing I'm referring to is precisely that one, when Goku and Vegeta have the same idea and start saying they need to surpass the Super Saiyan, that's not the case. The most interesting foreshadowing happens before the 3-year time skip. After Trunks reveals the devastated future of his timeline and warns about the arrival of the androids, the Z fighters begin their training for the battle that would come. It's at this moment that Vegeta states that he'd go even beyond that level. He explicitly says he intends to surpass the Super Saiyan itself. At that point, this line might have seemed like just another expression of Vegeta's pride and ambition, but as we've seen, it wasn't just that. Even if Toriyama didn't have the slightest idea how it had happened, he was already introducing the idea that Super Saiyan wouldn't be the final limit of the Saiyan's power. And to close the list, we have Gohan as the new savior. Throughout the entire Android saga, we had foreshadowing that he'd end up being the one truly responsible for defeating the final villain. The first instance appears even before the 3-year time skip until the android's arrival. Chi-Chi didn't want to let Gohan train with Goku and Piccolo, and Goku tells her that Gohan's power would be necessary. When the androids finally appear, Toriyama curiously decides to remove Gohan from the battlefield twice. And this was one of the storytelling strategies Toriyama used with Goku, letting events unfold with the other characters first and setting the stage for the protagonist to arrive near the end and save the world. Further ahead, after recovering from the heart virus, Goku says he's going to take Gohan to train with him. Incredibly, Chi-Chi accepts the situation without complaining much and says that, since Goku was going to do it, he should make Gohan very strong. After the two leave the Room of Spirit and Time, Goku's calmness and confidence leave everyone else puzzled. Even while saying he wouldn't be a match for Cell, he'd say they'd find a way. When Karin asks if Goku made some great discovery in the Room of Spirit and Time, Goku says, sort of. Goku had already realized something the others hadn't understood yet, not even Piccolo. Gohan's potential surpassed his own. Thus, some small moments scattered throughout the saga were foreshadowing the central role Gohan would have in the conclusion of that story. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think about all of this? Comment your thoughts down below. If you made it this far, you must have enjoyed it. So I want to ask for your like and your subscription here to the channel to keep following discussions like this one. And here on the screen, 2 more videos will appear that I'm sure you're gonna like. See you in the next video here on Dragon Dao.